What's going on, guys? Chuck here with another awesome Blu-ray purchase. Today I got what is one of the most eagerly anticipated releases in a while, and it came courtesy of Vinegar Syndrome on their Black Friday sale. It is from 1983, Michael Mann's The Keep. Now, as I've said in a previous video, I have not seen The Keep until just now. Oh, well, yesterday. But it's got a long, I'm going to say history, but it's very well, maybe history is the right word for it, knowing coming out, and it has a troubled history, production history of what was released in theaters and what was intended. And over the years, there's been a lot of talk of people wanting to see this extended version or even get this movie on a decent form of physical media, because I guess it hasn't been released for the longest time, and there's been all this talk that Michael Mann, would release it unless he could release his director's cut, all kinds of, stories, theories, whatever the case may be. So it was kind of a surprise when Vinegar Syndrome announced that, well, it was leaked sometime before they actually announced it, that they were going to get The Keep. And everyone was very excited, wondering, okay, does this mean that we're actually going to get the fabled 3-hour cut? Unfortunately, that was not the case. Vinegar Syndrome only got the rights to the theatrical cut. However, it is a 4K remaster. But that was a big disappointment to a lot of people, because they were hoping, because like the word was that this would never be released unless Michael Mann could release his cut. Again, rumor and innuendo. I don't know all the details. That's the things I've heard, researching it throughout, the interwebs, as it were. Again, this is a film I'm not all that familiar with, except for what I've heard. But I also knew its history, and that, it was such a coveted title, and it was one of these things that were, I don't want to say a holy grail for a lot of people, but it was a big one. People wanted this one. So I figured, okay, this is a good chance for me to get this in, and I think it deserves a place on the shelf. So I picked it up, and like I said, they did a nice treatment for this. This is a really nice, nice deluxe box, and everything. So my thoughts on the movie. I'll get in that first before I talk about how it looks and everything. For those of you who don't know, The Keep is basically takes place during World War II, and I believe you're in Romania, and these German Nazi soldiers are stationed at a big, I don't want to call it a fortress, but basically they call it The Keep. It's being held up by almost like a monk and his 2 sons in a small area or village. And it's kind of mysterious from the get-go. But along the way, let's just say, the place is very secretive of what's, what the place is about, what is The Keep exactly, who runs it, why is it here, no one really knows. This, the monks, whatever, basically, whoever they are, the caretaker, to say, we do what needs to be done, we go home, no one stays here. There's all these silver crosses planted throughout the walls, for whatever reason. It shouldn't be disturbed. So what happens? Of course, one of these Nazi soldiers disturbs him because it's silver. We're going to get silver, and in doing so, he unleashes something otherworldly, for lack of a better term. And then Nazi soldiers are being killed, which in turn brings up, the head of these soldiers, played by Jurgen Prochnow, I believe his name is, to try and figure out what's going on. So we ends up getting a Jewish, I think, professor who can read or translate these mysterious words or ancient words that are written on the side. And along the way, basically, this otherworldly being reveals himself to the Jewish translator, who's played by Sir Ian McKellen, by the way, a very young Ian McKellen, which is interesting. I had never seen a young Ian McKellen. And this being presents himself to Ian McKellen and kind of sells him on, what he's there for. Somewhere miles away, there's another being awakened, whatever the case would be, who's now going to come to the Keep to confront this other being. And that's all I could really want to say without giving too much. And that sounds kind of vague, but here's the problem with this cut. This theatrical cut is a very vague piece of storytelling. There's a lot of emptiness in it, a lot of holes. Uh, it's and it's just when I hear that the supposed director's cut is like 3 hours long, where the theatrical cut is like an hour and a half. That's a lot to take out. Um, and I can tell you right now, it really needs more meat on this bone because this is a pretty, uh, it's a pretty thin bone. There's not a whole lot on here to chew, if you will. They don't give the explanation. There's not much explanation for anything that goes on. It just kind of happens, which is it can work in some ways, but there's a lot I think that you really need to understand, and it's not explained here. It's kind of a mess as to why these two beings, what is their relation there? Why are they at each other? Hell, honestly, I don't even know if their names are even mentioned until later on. And they're just kind of known by other people. It's a mess. It really is. And it's a shame because I feel like there's something good in here that it would be. If you just put more in it, for whatever reason, why the studio cut it down. Again, we're talking 1983 studio politics. Who knows? What? I'm sure it was just to put more butts in seats and get more screenings. That's usually the theater way, or excuse me, the studio way. But who knows? This movie really needs more because there's something really good here. It's been whatever is good in here has been stripped away. You're basically down to literally the bare bones of what this story is, and it's lacking so much, and that's unfortunate. One of the best things that really elevates even the condensed version is the score by Tangerine Dream, because from the get-go, the music kind of sets you into a feeling. It's an ethereal feeling, if you will. It's like not of this world, dreamlike, almost fairy tale in a sense, where nothing seems real, and that's the dreamlike quality. It's a great score. It really is, and it really uplifts everything you're seeing in the film, and it helps. I said elevate everything. It almost is forgiving for having so much missing, but not quite. But it is an excellent dreamlike score. And I was surprised to find out, listening to special features, and that this official soundtrack score was never released, because it's a really good one, and the music is great. I think there was like a kind of a one produced later on, and there's an interview on here with one of the members of Tangerine Dream at the time who said they'd never actually made an official soundtrack, and there was I think tracks in this supposed CD that he never heard. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing in itself. So the movie itself, the 4K looked great. I watched it. I actually watched it twice. I watched it once on the projector, so you're looking at a big screen, and the detail was beautiful. The color was excellent. Everything. It's shot beautifully. Everything. The picture is great, and then I watch it later on with the commentary on my regular TV, and again with the the HDR, with both my projector and the TV have HDR10, and the 4K, everything looked great. The colors really pop, especially some the grass, everything felt natural colors. The detail was just really good. So the picture was wonderful. However, where this struggles is in the audio. And to their credit, Vinegar Syndrome actually kind of references this from the very get-go, because there's a disclaimer at the beginning of the movie. First of all, stating that, they realize that there have been, alternate versions and television cuts with extra footage. However, they were unable to attain those rights to get that. All they have is a theatrical cut. So it kind of, covers their butt right there is for people asking, why isn't there, where's this director's cut? It says right there, we were unable to attain his rights. It then mentions that they are using the original standard audio, master audio. However, there are some issues with the transfer that created some audio problems that were beyond their fixing, and this is where it struggles a bit because some of the audio is not very clear, at least when it comes to dialogue. And I do have a 7.1 surround. This doesn't need that. This is basically like I'm not even sure what this master stereo. I think it's stereo. I believe it is. So basically, you're in that case you're using your 3 speakers, your left, right, and your center channel for the most part, which is fine. A lot of times that works out as well. The effects in the music comes out really good. It's sound separating. Your center speaker is going to have your dialogue. A lot of the dialogue is very quiet, and in some cases it's really loud. In some instances, it's very, very. I think it's just so faint you can't even hear it. I actually had to watch the movie with subtitles just to catch all the dialogue because one, they're speaking a lot of obviously German accents or whatever accents, so that makes it a little hard to distinguish one. And then when they're doing it very quietly, almost the soundtrack is almost to a whisper. It's very hard to understand. So I had to watch it that way. But I mean, there's some, like I said, it kind of cuts in and out the dialogue we find, then it just kind of dips where it's very almost non-existent, so quiet, and then it kind of comes back in. The sound effects are good. They can be a little loud and rickety. Again, you're pushing through 3 channels as opposed to surrounding, so it's a little more forced, which is something I've noticed, and I have a hard time with this, since I've spent so many years dealing with separate sound channels. It's very hard for me to have sound blasting through because I don't feel like it's too much at once, where I like to have my sound separated. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. But it really, like I said, some of these sounds really push through almost overly aggressively through these 3 channels. But again, the main issue is really the audio dropouts on some of the dialogue. Again, it's not completely dropping out. They're there, but it's just, I feel like it's almost as if someone's holding a boom mic and then they start talking, and then the person got distracted and took the mic totally away from them. So they're like talking real loud, get down here like this, you can't see it. And they're back up here again. So it's a little, distracting, and it takes you. It's hard to follow along, as if the movie's not hard enough to follow along as it is with what's there. So that's the real downfall of this disc. And again, they covered it themselves with their disclaimer that this is really kind of out of their control. But again, if you watch it with subtitles, it's, if you can handle that kind of thing, and really it's just basically to cover the parts you don't hear. If you can do that, then it's okay. But the picture looks amazing. The picture is great. I'm not one for giving rankings because I'm not qualified enough to do that, I don't think. I can just tell you that I thought the picture quality was very clear, crisp. The colors were, when need to be revived. I felt that very realistic. The skin tones, great. Everything was just good picture-wise. Again, it's that audio was kind of a downer. So I don't know where I'm going with that after that, but yeah, I'm not gonna say I enjoyed the film. I did. But again, I just feel like I would really, now I see why everybody has talked about this 3-hour cut, because again, I would love to see what should be, what could be, because there's a lot. I feel like there's so much here that just needs to be explored or expanded upon, and it's just not there. Some things just happen to you quick. Some things are just like this romance, 5-hour romance that happens so quickly between Scott Glenn's character, who is the being coming after the being in the keep, and whatever he has with the Ian McKellen's daughter. It's unexplained. It just happens because, and there's, again, some things are just kind of just rushed through editing. Like you can tell, there's just so much missing, and I'd like to see it. There's some good visual effects, some great makeup effects. The suit or the costume for I can't remember the creature's name, the being's name, Molostar, something like that. Forgive me. But all that's nice, and it's nice to see kind of practical, and it's interesting because it actually reminds me a lot of Hellraiser, because when you first see this creature, this being, I hate to call it a creature, it's not really a creature, but this being come up, he's basically rebuilding himself from, starting at very simple, almost like mist and veins, whatever, and each time you see an iteration of him, he's more built up, similar to what happens to Frank in Hellraiser. He's starting off from just skeleton and muscle tissue, and till he gets to human form, and in a similar way, this the being from the keep is basically sucking out a life force to build on his own, from evil Nazis. But again, I think there's a lot here that needs to be fleshed out and explored, and it would be nice to see a 3-hour cut or something other, and they talk about it on the commentary, there's the whole other ending that was shot, extended ending, maybe been on TV. Again, I don't know. The first time seeing was this last night. So yeah, that's my thought. I mean, is it worth having? I think so, because you had this movie on a very high quality, minus the audio issues. Again, for its troubled history. However, it would have been nice. It would be nice to have, if not even in putting maybe the deleted scenes thrown in, and you can make your own, put your own mind image together if you couldn't actually get the cut. But unfortunately, like I said, they weren't unable to get the rights for those. But what they did get, they were able to put together in this very nice hard deluxe box. Pardon, I got fingerprints all over it, but there is the slip box side. Here's the back, goodies inside, and you've got your slip case, back, and of course there's the original poster art. The cover is reversible, and it is just this image right here. Here's your back with all your special features, and inside you've got your Blu-ray, your 4K. Your 4K, only special feature the 4K will have is the audio commentary. All your other special features will be on the Blu-ray. So, in terms of special features, we've got the 96-minute feature presentation of the key, presented in Dolby Vision HDR and newly restored from its 35mm original camera negative, with the following sound options: original 2.0 stereo soundtrack and a commentary track with historian Matthew Asprey gear, which I did listen to. And it's interesting. Again, he talks a little about the the differences of what Mann or the scene, the extended cut, some of the troubles that Michael Mann had with the studio, and just kind of trying to fill in the gaps or flesh out the comparison between the book and the film itself, and just giving a little bit of history of the production. It's interesting, not overly engaging, but interesting. Let's see. Also include, and the Blu-ray disc containing everything on the 4K, of course, plus 5 features: Out of the Darkness, 7 minutes, an interview with producer Gene Kirkwood, which is interesting. It's real quick. He's a very lively guy. That's all I can say. Something is Murdering the Men, 24 minutes, an interview with the Keep author F. Paul Wilson, which that's a really good interview, because he talks about his obviously his kind of disappointment with the film, and how for a while he kind of took it to heart, because it's the book is one thing, the film is something else. He also goes in a little more detail about the difference between his book and the movie, and how he's kind of come to get past that, because he didn't really hurt himself with the book. That kind of helped him out a lot. So it's in how the film has kind of developed a bit of a cult following. So he's kind of come to peace with that. What he left unfinished, which is another 8 minutes, an interview with visual effects producer Peter Curran, which is pretty cool because just again talking about visual effects. I guess the original the visual effects guy passed away, so he had to bring in someone last second, and there's a lot of different changes that had to be made. Let's see, and then An Evil Most Ancient, which is 24 minutes, an interview with makeup effects designer Nick Maley, which is another good thing, talking about the different what was it the different costumes, mainly for Molasar, that's his name. What they went through that, some of the other visual effects. Other Sounds for Other Worlds, an interview, which is 11 minutes, interview with composer Johannes Schmollering, who is a member of Tangerine Dream, and talks about the music for that, which is his history, starting with Michael Mann on the what was it, Thief, I believe it was, and going on to this. And then I'm Molasar, 25-minute interview with actor Michael Carter, who I was not aware of this. If you're not know who Michael Carter is, he played Bib Fortuna in Return of the Jedi. He's also the man in American Werewolf in London, the subway tunnel, who gets stalked by the werewolf in the subway tunnel. Those are two roles I know him for. Bib Fortuna and subway guy. And of course, still gallery and an original trailer. You've also got this little booklet here. Just make sure I got this is the this is the right. So I haven't had a chance to read this yet. I've gone through everything else except for the book, but it's pretty intense, pretty detailed. I can try and see what we got. So yeah. And that is pretty much it. It's a nice release. I think it's a really good release. It's really good special features. Again, a great presentation video-wise. It's a shame that they were unable to... Hold on, I can get this back in here. They were unable to attain the rights to the extra footage, which would have been nice to see in some capacity, whether it had been as deleted scenes or to get an actual director's cut. But what you got is interesting as a piece of history. Again, the only downfall, again, is the audio, which is, I think it kind of takes you out of it. But, again, the picture looks great. If you can kind of just, throw on some titles and enjoy the film, if it's a problem. And maybe you'll be able to hear sound. I don't know. Maybe it's just, I'm just having trouble with it. I don't know. But like I said, there's a disclaimer about the sound issues. Because first I thought it was just maybe the mix, or maybe I was having trouble with it, but they did say there was a problem with the mix, so it may be relevant for you depending on your setup. But I would recommend, if you're wanting to get a copy to keep, this is definitely a way to get it, especially since I don't know if there may be some overseas Blu-rays, but again, this is probably the best way you're going to pick it up. So that is it for now. If you enjoyed this, click thumbs up, share, subscribe, leave me a comment below. Let me know your thoughts on the key, because I'm curious. I know a lot of people, talked about it. Obviously, the wish is to get the 3-hour Michael Mann cut, if it even exists somewhere. Which would, again, if it does, it would be nice to see. I would like to just figure out what's going on. Or just say hi. I'll always take hi. So until next time, this is Chuck saying I will see you on the other side.